So, when I first started uploading videos to this channel, I thought I was going to have a dearth of information, and I'd have to really dig deep to find things to talk about on this YouTube channel. It doesn't seem to be the case. Things move a lot quicker than I thought they did. In this case, I'm talking about Hasbro purchasing Dungeons & Dragons Beyond. So if you're interested in Dungeons & Dragons and Dungeons & Dragons Beyond and what this might mean for the game, then check out this video. So to go back a little bit, Dungeons & Dragons, paper and pen role-playing game, started in the 70s. For most of its life, it's been non-digital because, well, for most of my life, most things have been non-digital. However, it should have really ramped up in being digitally offered in the early 2000s, but Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast were always wary of this idea that, once they put it out digitally, everybody could just get free copies of the game somewhere. And it's interesting because, as I've mentioned in previous videos, Wizards of the Coast came up with the novel idea of having the open license, meaning that certain parts of the game, the basic parts of the game, could be digitally offered and also copyright free, so that other people could add to the game and profit from that without Hasbro interfering in a lawsuit. So I guess there's parts of the game that they really want to protect, and so they're wary, as I said, of putting out digital products because they think those digital products are going to turn into a way for people to just not purchase their products. So they have made inroads in each edition, like 3rd edition, 4th edition, to sort of get their feet wet and test out the waters of what's possible with the digital thing. However, they've always done it in-house, and those things have either not really lived up to promises or not continued on. They get canceled early, so they aren't given the room to breathe. So with 5th edition, they tried something new. They licensed out the idea and of making a digital Dungeons & Dragons product. Now, of course, part of that had already been done by the different tabletop simulators that are out there, like Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds being the two most popular. There's others, and there's ways to do it through Discord as well. What these do is they offer you an ability to put a map in the middle of where you and your friends are discussing the game and what you're going to do, and it has a grid available and Fog of War, and then also your character sheets are there. It's just a sort of a one-stop place to, as the name suggests, they simulate the tabletop. So these things have offered digital product licensed from Wizards at basically the same price as the retail physical versions of the books. So you can get all the books in these different things. Dungeons & Dragons Beyond, I thought when it first came out that that's where it was going, was to be another one of these tabletop simulators. But it actually took things to in a different direction, more like a sidestep, and then added some things to it and functionality, and really focused on what I guess Curse thought was the core of what they wanted to be. So Curse is the company that makes Dungeons & Dragons Beyond, and initially it was owned by Twitch, which I believe is owned by Amazon. I guess at some point Fandom bought it, and now Hasbro has bought it from Fandom. So what Dungeons & Dragons Beyond offers, and offers well, is a character generator. Now, each of these tabletop simulators have a character generator, but I think the Dungeons & Dragons one is much more robust, and because they also have a really seamless way of adding your own homebrew content, meaning adding your own races, your own classes, your own monsters, and really making it look like it's part of the whole system, that takes it a step beyond what the other tabletop simulators offer in the way of character generation. For me personally, the only books digitally that I bought is on Dungeons and Dragons Beyond, because they had much more closer relationship with Wizards of the Coast than the other two did. And I thought, like I said, they would be moving into a tabletop simulator, and they still may very well be. What I think now is that with Hasbro, if they're committed to the idea, then, and they avoid what they've done in the past, which is, early cancellation because revenue wasn't there for, or something like that, whatever internal reasons they have for canceling these things. I think Dungeons and Dragons Beyond has managed to avoid, because it was developed and built outside of Wizards of the Coast, and the early part of it, there wasn't anyone at Wizards of the Coast to say, hey, this isn't generating enough revenue, scrap the whole thing. Now they're at a point where they're successful enough for Wizards of the Coast to buy them, successful enough for a previous company, Fandom, to buy them. So I guess the proof is in the pudding for Dungeons & Dragons Beyond, that it can generate revenue. So one hopes then that Hasbro will use this as a further jumping off point to get into something that I would really like, is this digital ecosystem. And a tabletop simulator would be something that I would definitely want Dungeons & Dragons Beyond to do, because it's pretty much the reason why I've subscribed to it and why I've bought books on it, because I'm hoping that at some point they're going to develop this beyond what the amazing things it can already do. Like, it has a great app, and in fact, the web portal itself works really well on phones, and so it's just and other devices like tablets. So it's really just a great little app that allows you to play at the table with your friends and have more instantaneous access to things than you would necessarily in the physical books. It has search functionality and that sort of stuff, but it just sort of compiles things very nicely. And of course, you can have the books nearby as well, but Dungeons & Dragons Beyond, for a lot of people, is now sort of a staple at the table. And in addition to that, it's a staple online when people, starting in 2020, really ramped up this idea of playing Dungeons & Dragons on things like Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds. So, like I said, I'm hoping that functionality of D&D Beyond will be expanded by Hasbro, because they've seen the potential. I don't know if that's what they'll do, but it'd be wonderful if they did keep the team that's in place and add to it with people in their own organization or outside in other organizations that may have some expertise that would expand Dungeons & Dragons Beyond to a tabletop simulator, but also beyond that, and maybe even having, maybe we start moving along that road to making a digital Dungeons & Dragons with actual graphics, like a video game that can be built by anyone. Basically start moving yourself towards a Minecraft type game or a Skyrim type game that can be easily modded, and it's a user generated adventure game in digital form. So that's what I'm hoping for this purchase of Dungeons & Dragons Beyond by Hasbro, that they are going to recognize its potential and build that potential, and not just abandon it like they have in the past. Let me know what you think.